Go. Hey guys, welcome. This is Elieson and Jedi from Saren's Forest. You can also find us on Reddit under similar usernames. We are going over the Fire Emblem Direct that was just recently revealed by Nintendo a couple of hours ago. We got a lot of good news. We got some games that we weren't really expecting, like Fire Emblem Gaidens re-release. Looks absolutely gorgeous. We've got some
Yes.
Fire Emblem Warriors stuff to go over. We've got, not too much, unfortunately. We've got a whole
No,
new mobile
unfortunately.
platform to go over, and we have a little bit as far as the oh gosh, there's even a secret reveal of a brand new game coming up. Jedi, you want to talk about that for a minute first?
Yep. Hmm.
Oh, go ahead and lay that out. Give me one sec here. I need to mute my mic for a moment.
Loud noises.
Part of me makes me think I didn't mute my microphone there, but that's okay. Sorry, that was my daughter coming in for just a moment. Anyway, yeah, let's go
Just
ahead and start things off right away. Jedi, we had our first reveal of the Fire Emblem direct cover, Fire Emblem Echoes. What do you know about
yes.
Fire Emblem Echoes?
Well, it's a remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, which was released in 1992 in Japan anyways. We didn't really get that one. It's kind of a awkward bit of mechanics compared to the other Fire Emblem games, and that's why people thought it wouldn't be remade. But here we are now.
Yeah, it's completely unreal. It's the second in the series of all games, and coincidentally enough, it's actually being released on April 20th in Japan, which is the 27th anniversary of Fire Emblem. It's being
Yeah.
released worldwide on the 19th of May in 2000 of this year, I guess, in Europe and North America, and presumably other territories, Korea, wherever it might touch on.
Yep.
Um, One really cool thing that goes with the game, before we get too far into anything else, is that there are some amiibo that are coming out with the game. You can see on my screen we've got the Alm and Celica amiibo that go along with the game. They come in a two-pack. Pricing for two-packs tends to run around $24 to $26. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is going to be coming out with the game, and Japan offers a bundle, actually, that includes the amiibo along with some pretty cool box set material like artwork and art book. The
Art. Is there
official,
an art book?
yeah, there's Vincent ASM covered that there's going to be an art book released, which looks fantastic from what I understand. I unfortunately can't tell you that much about it because I can't read any of it. I'm sure we'll have our friendly Kirokan getting ready to translate that as soon as word of mouth comes out about that.
Or
But yeah, some other good news about Fire Emblem Echoes is that it's being directed as far as the art goes by some pretty big names. We've got Studio Kara, which by first glance, not a whole lot of people might know. They're actually responsible for the artwork and animation in movies like, gosh, like the Evangelion movies and uh,
yeah,
and, and
that
Tengen.
was that was the biggest surprise.
Yeah, Eva, Tengen Toppa, Gurren Lagann. These guys have some pretty good work under their belt. So
Hmm.
I'm not too worried about the artwork. And if anyone's had a chance to take a peek at any of the in-game artwork, I'll see if I can get a couple of screenshots of it. You can actually see a little bit of the character portraits here, which are not too crazy, but then some in-game animations too, which feature a much more anime-style approach. So there's some pretty good looking artwork here. I'm not worried about this. The audio has been completely redone too. From what I
Hmm.
understand, Studio Car is going partially involved with that. I don't think they're entirely involved.
Now, now all we need is Alan to have a drill arm so we can just go all Gurren login on that.
That would be fantastic. Although, there is one neat thing about Alm. He's part of the specialty release for Japan has him being involved in Fire Emblem Cipher as the new Cipher card that's being released. Just a random little tidbit there. I don't know how much you keep up with Cipher. I managed to grab a quick screenshot of it here so you can see what the artwork of the card looks like. There's not a whole lot you can tell from here. I can read the number 9. That implies it's season. This is Series 3, Season 9, and it's actually going to be released in June. So for any Cipher collectors out there, there's quite a bit you can check out.
I have a few Cipher cards, but nothing like no like deck or anything. It looks like an interesting game, but I don't know the rules.
Well, there are some online methods that we can play at Seren's Forest to check it out. I'm gonna have to give that a go one of these days when Nintendo stops releasing things for me to have to cover.
They won't at this rate. Look, we got like 4 huge announcements.
Yeah, we've got the Fire Emblem Echoes that give us a lot to work with. You know what? Let's go over a little bit as far as the game goes. I don't know if you happened to catch much of the video. It was voiced by Yuri Lowenthal.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite voice actors, actually.
What voices does he do for Fates and
Awakening? He voiced Marth in Fates. I forget if he actually voiced anyone else, but he also voiced Rickon in Awakening.
Okay, did he voice Long Q by any chance?
Did he? I actually don't think so. It didn't sound like him.
Okay.
I might be wrong on that, but yeah, I found the fanboying over Long Q a little weird.
That's what I was suspecting at first. Anyway, yeah, part of the video was covered towards the end of this. We'll go over in a little bit. His Fire Emblem Mobile release. He went extreme fanboy over Long Q. It was really entertaining. Anyway, we were greeted with some interesting footage here in the YouTube video. You can just see kind of from the start, we've got a little bit of the introduction of what's going on between Mila and Duma over at in the Valencia world. You play in this game, if you're not familiar, as Elm and Celica. Jedi, do you know much about the plot as far as the gameplay of this goes, how it goes, maybe a little bit of how it starts?
There was like barely any plot because like Elm just gathers a group of fighters together and then leaves town to go fight the evil empire. Kind of summed up there, but that was kind of the basic thing.
Yep, it was released in 1992 originally before the remakes, so you can understand that it probably didn't have the most complicated of plots.
Also, we got voice confirmations in chat if you want to check that.
Okay. Travis Willingham voiced Long Q. Thank you, Parallel Falchion, for that. I appreciate that. But yes, anyway, so we got some pretty cool coverage. We get a release of the game, and one interesting thing that you'll see here in the video is the title Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valencia. I'm hyped. I really think that this is a good sign of games to be released in the future. We've got Shadows of Valencia set with little hyphens on the side, and one thing I've seen is that games or books or stories that have, a sub-series or something implies that the different titles of whatever the sub-series might include will be separated off in just a little different way. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Stories of Fire and Ice will list each chapter or each book of each series a little differently. So I'm really hoping, this might be going on a little bit of a limb, Fire Emblem Echoes becomes sort of a series of re-releases, and Shadows of Valencia is just the first of many re-releases, giving us hopefully what we're missing in an American release for Fire Emblem 4 and 5 of the Jugdral Saga, and Fire Emblem 6, so we can finally learn who Roy is from Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Hey, I know who he is, but, translations.
Yeah, there's some fantastic translation patches of Fire Emblem and the Binding Blade, or Fire Emblem and the Sword of Seals, depending on how you refer to it as. And you should really check them out if you haven't had a chance to, just to see what the game is like. It's the predecessor to Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, if you're not already familiar, which is the first Fire Emblem that the United States and Europe, and pretty much the majority of the world outside of Japan, was introduced to the Fire Emblem series as.
It's actually kind of funny because when I first played FE7, like young me was thinking that Elwood was just a retranslated name for Roy at first, like an idiot.
Yeah, a lot of people had no idea, so I thought it was pretty neat too. As soon as I found Seren's Forest and really learned the whole deal, all the history about it. Anyway, so the video goes on for a little bit more. It explains the backstory of how basically simple Fire Emblem Gaiden is. It's just a side story starring Alm and Celica as they travel across the world in a pretty unique element as far as Fire Emblem gameplay goes. One thing that was neat is that this game featured overworld experience. You could kind of
Yeah.
walk around, almost like Shining Force back in the day, where you could do little bits of puzzle solving, map exploration, and social
Mhm.
interaction.
The other interesting thing is that we're going like remade in this too.
Yeah, and then the neat thing, which you can see in the transition I'm going through here, is the real beautiful transition of the game, really trying to stay true to its roots and give us
Yeah.
a clean and simple yet definitely distinct Fire Emblem appeal. You've got what appears to be, I don't know if they're archers or ballista units up here at the top, which is something pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen a ballista in a 3DS version of Fire Emblem other than the
Oh,
DLC for Fire Emblem Fates, which you have to pay to get, which was kind of unfair.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, that's the only one. Now,
That
Fire Emblem for DS, Shadow Dragon introduced us to handheld ballista for the DS, you know, multi-series. But now we really haven't seen too much of a touch on, so we might be seeing something cool
yeah.
in this. The battle system, what's really giving us something neat, based on what I can tell, we've got just a completely redone heads-up display, and this may be one of those optional displays, kind of like in Fire Emblem Awakening, where it showed you, just a general added glimpse of how much you were going to do. That was one of the optional views in Awakening. If you were unaware of, you could just kind of get a raw, quick little statistical breakdown and a visual glimpse of how much damage you're doing on a status meter rather than just raw numbers.
I actually really like the overlay in this game, just from the little we've seen. It looks really clean.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. It's the between the EXP gain featuring the little mugshot or the half mugshot of the character who's gaining the EXP, which I think is just
Oh,
such a simple and neat touch. Did you get to notice that at first?
uh, no, but one of our chat people just noticed something. When Alm was about to attack, there was like an enemy face in the top left corner, apparently.
An enemy face in the top left corner. That looks like there may be a returning of pair up or dual stance handling.
I'm not sure, but
I'm
that is a nice catch.
Yeah, I'm seeing two units here. It's possible, although what's interesting is we're not seeing two units in battle. Perhaps it's a support bonus, and we're just seeing
Oh,
a handled support, enemy supports.
enemy supports would be interesting. FE4 kind of did that with the Mage sisters and the Pegasus sisters. They had to fight.
Yeah, let's see again. We really don't get too much of a glimpse. We don't see any sort of preliminary battle boost, or it shows a little bit of a difference in terms of stats or anything. So maybe that's something covered on the
Yeah,
bottom
it's
screen. We don't know. This is going to be a two-screen game. We only see one screen.
yeah,
Anyway, so we're also
uh,
getting some pretty cool conversation bits. And some of these characters, I'm not entirely sure who they are as far as what their translated names are. I haven't had a good chance to look them up. But this is definitely different from what we usually get, because when you think of Fire Emblem conversations, you get a character on the left and a character on the right side of your screen. And this is a
yeah,
character right smack dab in the middle. It kind of emphasizes that you're talking to them, which may be doing something to help try to immerse you a little bit more into the plot of being one of the lords as Rat instead of a super customizable avatar. I'm not sure. They really didn't
yeah,
mention very much about an avatar in this game.
yeah. I haven't noticed that either. It's just if there is, these would make sense though, because these are like personal one-on-one chats, kind of.
hmm Well, I guess we never really got development for the characters like Alm and Celica and their army. It was
Yeah,
just a game where you amass an army by saying, "Hey, join my team," and if they felt like it, they did. So if we're adding character
Yeah, there
development,
was.
which is what's rumored, what they advertised in the direct, then that's going to be really exciting. We'll actually have character development for
Mhm.
characters that were never anything more than just a mugshot.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Like how FE12 kind of did that for, Mystery of the Emblems characters, although we didn't get that unfortunately, but they did add supports to that.
Yes,
So,
especially through the base conversations, which I'm kind of hoping returns in this game.
yeah, I'm kind of hoping for an FE9 style base, but with the overworld map, it looks like we're going to get something more like Awakening or FE8, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I'm seeing something more Awakening or Fire Emblem Sacred Stones here, where you can traverse around the world. What looks to be skirmishes. I'm assuming one of these is
Hmm.
a skirmish, and one of these is probably a plot progression battle. But it's
Yeah.
neat. It's neat how you can just wander around and you can interact in different spots and do things. Now, this is something I was really hoping that you would get to explain a bit more in detail, just because you know a lot more about the TMS or the Tokyo Mirage Sessions exploration system. Did you get a chance to see too much of Celica doing the overworld, or I'm sorry, I guess the exploration part?
Uh, there's like a few dungeons where you actually have to walk around and find the right way to go in FE2, but they weren't like done in depth. You just had to find your way and then find random enemies. But this looks like they're taking like the Shin Megami Tensei or Persona route where you can just run around a dungeon, get a quick strike on an enemy, get an advantage. That's what I'm getting from it, anyways.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed in here, I'm not sure what that little light sphere that's following Celica is. It looks like a ball of fire or something. Probably
Uh,
just a light maybe to increase visibility, but
yeah,
there
I
may
was.
be some sort of overworld abilities that impact your skills at being able to explore in places like, dank ruins and such. That would be really neat.
Oh, something I just noticed? There was a damage counter when Celica hit him. So maybe that just hit. It's like the lead enemy for amount of damage or the whole group.
Well, let's take a peek and replay this. So we see her exploring, we definitely see the light. We see the enemy alert,
Hmm.
and then we see her stab.
I think there was like a little number 11 that popped up for a second, but I'm
Yeah,
not too sure.
yeah, take a look at the enemy HP bars underneath. They're definitely hurt. So perhaps that's really it. Maybe you do get a sort of statistical advantage for striking an enemy, kind of catching them by surprise before they catch you, so to speak. That's neat. That's
Yeah, they're all damaged. Okay, that's cool. I was right. Wow, they are taking inspiration from Atlas. That's very Shin Megami Tensei. Although you basically just get a first strike kind of. Oh yeah, that is how like Shin Megami Tensei 4 worked. Like in the field, you'd slash and hit an enemy, and then you they'd take a little bit of damage. So yeah,
Gosh, it's just those little bits like that that really make this into a new experience. You think they really went all out with Awakening when they first ported to 3DS with multiple skills, and then they went into Fates and gave units new kinds of skills and a base to run. It's little things like
hmm,
this that make it feel more like they're really moving forward in the game development. They're not just rehashing the
yeah,
same general style, and it's good. It's what we need. Fire Emblem, even 7 to 8, Blazing Sword to Sacred Stones were definitely two different games, even though they borrowed a lot of the same
hmm,
aspects. Um, one
yeah,
one thing that caught me off guard, I don't know if you see the stat menu I've got up right now, but after
yeah.
handling, it looks like you can adjust. They mentioned in the audio how you can adjust your unit stats to customize them to make them fit your team better. I'm trying to figure out why I'm looking at a team where I can select a unit unless this is a reclassing option, which I suspect it is because the
This
hair of this unit looks the same on all these little different classes.
so in Gaiden, you had a couple characters who were villagers. Like starting off, you know how like Donald and Mozu kind of are, but basically when you got to one of these shrines, you could promote them to like 5 different classes, like as you see on screen right there.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of just pick your own. Oh, I want this character to be this time, or I don't know if like second seals are going to come into play in this, but that would be kind of wild if they did with all this.
Hmm. Who Emma Sky
Oh,
Doof puts out a
wait a
good point
second,
too.
someone. Yeah,
We've
that's what I was
got
just about to mention.
Yeah, we have a lack of we have an attack stat, tech, which implies skill, like we're all familiar with, speed, luck, def res, move, and
There's
HP.
no
We don't have a
magic.
magic meter, so we may be coming back to a point in which there really is no difference between strength and magic. You have even just full melee capabilities and otherwise.
Huh.
This really touches back to the old Game Boy Advance and beyond, and prior to Arc, mostly Game Boy Advance, because that was probably one of the only eras that really featured a strength magic kind of a shared stat.
Yeah, wow, when I first watched the video, I didn't actually notice that.
Yeah. With now another thing to wonder with if there's going to put in some sort of weight system, which has been notoriously involved in most Fire Emblems up until the 3DS era, there's always a weight system. Awakening and Fates didn't have a weight system. They may not have a weight system in this game. In the old Fire Emblems,
uh,
they had it tied to strength, though, so I don't know if they'd be doing that again in this case or not.
Gaiden didn't have a stat like that, but then again, you didn't really have weapons that you used that much. You just equipped weapons, but if people didn't have a weapon, they just attacked with their basic strength.
Gotcha. I suppose that makes sense. All right. Oh, shucks. Yeah, definitely. We got a reclassing option or promotion option. I guess this is what you were talking about. We got a sort of villager here to start things off with, and then he jumps onto a horse. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah, this really does imply
And
that customization, which definitely makes things neat. Now, there's one thing coming up right here. Did you see that? He defended,
mm-hmm.
but then he also took 1 damage. And this is something people who are not too familiar with Gaiden might know about. Defending units, no matter what, would take at least 1 damage. If you dodged an attack, you took 0 damage, but you can't just plunk your defense tank into the middle of the fray and just expect to not take any damage. This might help deter people from just, building a defense wall and thrusting them into the middle of the fray battle.
Yeah. Oh, that just makes me wonder if they're going to go with the lower HP values of Fates with that kind of mechanic. Because that would be kind of an interesting mixture of ideas.
Yeah. Alternatively, it could be a skill. Maybe enemies have skills or something that allow them to always deal damage if they would miss or something, and that would be a pretty neat mechanic too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, we're getting Nintendo's eShop 3DS release of Echoes coming in just a couple of months. We're getting that towards the middle of the year. It's going to be a really cool treat for a lot of people. And with the Amiibo coming through, we're getting a good combination of stuff that hopefully, even though nothing was mentioned, we're looking at possible DLC. They specifically mentioned that they're going to explain more functionality in the future, and there's nothing posted on Nintendo's websites, either Japanese or uh, American or European version, that handle any sort of functionality for this. Now, I'm thinking you probably have some high hopes for what the Amiibo are going to be used for, whether not for this game or maybe for a different game. One game in particular that I think people are pretty excited about possibly using Amiibo for, or maybe just having to get their hands on, is this one that comes up next for the Nintendo Switch. Very little was explained for the Nintendo Switch version of Fire Emblem. One is
Yeah.
in development, and both Japan and non-Japan regions are sharing a 2018 release date for a Nintendo Switch that title is basically unnamed. So at this point, it's just speculation. I'm excited because it's the first console release of Fire Emblem since since Radiant Dawn for the Wii, which came out.
Radiant Dawn.
Yeah, that came out. Not Radiant Dawn came out 9 years ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I still remember the day that it came out. I actually got that day one. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
It's unreal. So I've got high hopes because you're going to be able to take the Switch around, and enjoy the portability of it, but then you can also take advantage of the fact that there's probably going to be some strong cinematic elements, which you can really push to enjoy. Maybe they'll make it so enemy phases are pretty brisk, and it's just going to be some sort of a real spectacle to look at. That's what I'm really hoping for. Something that really pushes the element, especially since there's no touch screen. Although, there is a touch screen, but there's no second screen like the DS versions had. So this is going to be the first console version that technically could have 2 screens of use.
Yeah, that would be cool actually. It's gonna look gorgeous. I know that already.
It is. I'm really hoping so. But yeah, until we find out more details and future directs, which we're probably not going to find out anything until about the fall to holiday season. I think we're just going to have to sit on our hands and hope and wait. So we can
Pretty
talk spec
much.
all we want, but there's way too much to consider. I'm assuming there's going to be
Yeah.
an avatar. I'm assuming there's going to be pretty pretty awesome stats and growth. So I'm hoping we get tier 3 back. And according to chat, future amiibo functionality is going to be for warriors and only warriors. I'm totally guessing that that's what it's
Raven's all
for.
sad.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. I figured we were going to be getting into some good warrior chat. Raven, you're probably right. I don't know much about weapon level. I don't think weapon level would be tied to a stat. I think weapon level would have its own stat. Although we'll have to see because I don't know that much
Wep-
about Gaiden's weapon level
Weapon
system.
level did used to be its own stat. I will say that, but it wasn't in FE2. It was just FE1 and FE3 that did that mostly.
Okay.
So,
We'll have to see what that
yeah.
offers. But now we're getting into your territory here.
Oh boy. We didn't get too much though on Warriors. That's why I'm sad. Although this direct was amazing, we didn't get much on Warriors at all. Just got a few more things with Crom.
Yeah, Crom finally got his day. We got a little bit
Oh,
more of a spectacle of what
yeah.
Koei Tecmo is going to be offering units as far as what they can do on the battlefield. But all we got was Crom doing a little bit of flashy fan service.
And the cool thing is, like, you can see that some of his, like, awakening animations are in his, like, move set. Just the way he twirls his sword around is very similar. They paid very close attention to that. Overall, I think with the announcement of Echoes, um, we're going to get some Gaiden characters in this, but that's just speculation.
Well, I think there's a lot to do. I mean, we've got 5 amiibo, and we're going to have 2 more coming out. We've got Lucina and Roy. We've got Robin, and we've got the Ike and Marth, of course. And then we're going to be having 2 more coming out, so 7 amiibo in total. If it's
Mhm.
anything like Hyrule Warriors was, when you scanned in your amiibo for Hyrule Warriors, you could get some perks in there. Do you know what those perks
Yeah.
were?
You basically got extra weapons. You could basically every day you could scan all of your Zelda amiibo, and they give you like different weapons or little bonuses of money, or just like you could just do it every day. It was little, but it did something at least.
All right, well that's at least something. So you probably won't be getting new characters in the release, and that's interesting. I'm not really sure what to expect from that, just because it could be
Oh,
different for any game. Oh, by the way,
oh yeah.
check this out. Crom's finger is totally clipping through that falchion handle, but
I just noticed that. Like, oh my gosh, that's kind of funny.
yeah.
Oh, new 3DS owners are going to be able to play Fire Emblem Warriors as well. They just announced that. And Koei Tecmo learned from Hyrule Warriors Legends because that could only run properly on the new 3DS. You could try to play it on your old 3DS, but it chugged
So
massively.
could you even attempt to play it on the old 3DS, or was it
You
exclusively
you
the new 3DS?
could, but it didn't run very well. It didn't have the power it needed that the
Gotcha.
new 3DS did have. And a cool thing with Crom's special here, you can see him do the twirling spin slash that he does against Lucina and the 2 Falchions cutscene from Awakening. It's actually kind of a neat thing I noticed, but I'm a dork who notices things like that.
No, that was it. I definitely saw him do 3 front flips before he landed that one strike there. There's a good
Yeah,
there's a lot to the Warriors thing, and with it coming out in around the holiday season of this year, according to Nintendo, we're gonna have a lot to discuss. In pre-holiday season, I'm sorry, fall, a little before Christmas
also
trees.
Mr. Mario. One second. Mr. Mario Sonic Man says, "Did you notice he threw a javelin?" And that was something I was going to bring up because at the beginning of that super, he does throw something, and yeah, it looks like they're incorporating his lance usage, which is kind of cool. Project X Zone 2, which was like a weird strategy game, had him doing that as well, where he was actually throwing his lances and stuff too. That was kind of nice.
Well, considering he does promote to a Great Lord, he does get Lance access. It is totally canon for him to have a javelin to use. It's a pretty spectacle. Yep, there's that glowing javelin that he's definitely throwing through the enemies. That's pretty neat. I didn't even really notice that. I completely forgot.
Yeah, it
One
looks like.
thing.
Oh, I was
Oh,
just gonna say it looks like Crom has really good crowd control. That's always something you need in a Warriors game.
gosh, look. Unless I don't know quite how supers work, so I'm thinking. Well, for someone, I saw someone in Saren's Far's quote um, one of the characters that this attack looked like. So you can see elements of it being Fire Emblem inspired, other than the units being Fire Emblem based. But
hmm
we're definitely seeing Fire Emblem style enemy units, the classic soldier getting beat up.
Yeah. Oh, it was funny before we started doing this. Ellison's like, "There's a guy behind Crom. Is it a character?" I'm like, "Huh? I have to look at that. It's just another soldier." I thought that was Edward at first from Fire Emblem 10.
Yeah, at first I kind of thought this was Micaiah just because I noticed the red and white, and it's a super quick scene. Before you know it, they're gone. You don't even see them anymore. So
And
it's
Mr. Mario Sonic Man, yeah, I'm not sure since he's using a javelin in his like base look if my promotion, but I don't know.
you cut out there for a moment. Can you repeat that?
Okay, so basically, Mr. Mario Sonic Man was saying since he threw a javelin, does this mean like the whole theory about promotions being in the game is cut out? I'm like, I'm thinking maybe it is because Great Lords can only use lances, so my promotion theory might not pull through on this one.
Hmm. Well, we'll just have to see what more gets offered. There is one more point someone did bring up, and I didn't mention this earlier. I wanted to tie this into something new that I saw earlier today on Target's website. Um, there is going to be an 8th Fire Emblem amiibo, if you aren't aware, and you totally should be aware if you haven't already been
Oh,
aware.
right.
The Corrin amiibo that was announced many, many months ago, we've heard virtually nothing about, and it's been really, really strange. But one thing we found is that Amiibo Alerts, which is a pretty respectable, very respectable and reliable Amiibo organization, or Amiibo Twitter, basically, is that there's a new mystery Smash quality Amiibo, and there's a
Wait,
new,
what?
yeah,
I
there's
huh?
if you take a look at if you take a look at the item number here, you'll see this
Mm-hmm.
AACK. Um, the last known released amiibo was AACH. AACH was Ryu, and
Oh,
I'm sorry, AA tends to be their item code name for Smash related amiibo. So I think we're going to be seeing Corrin in this batch because the 3 amiibo that we've heard of that were not necessarily confirmed were Cloud, Bayonetta, and Corrin. With Fire Emblem right around the corner and Fire Emblem supposedly being confirmed to be hitting shelves, you can already kind of pre-order it when you go places. Also, this mystery 2-pack, which is
hmm.
identified as this 2A. We're definitely seeing some amiibo coming to Target pretty soon, among others. It's looking pretty reassuring. I think that when things get a little bit closer to the summertime, um, April, May, we're going to hear a lot more about the Corrin amiibo coming out along with the Alum and Celica amiibo 2-pack. So
Huh. Okay.
I've got hopes for it. They've got a pretty short production time, but I've seen them turn out some pretty high numbers in 3 months. So I'm excited.
Hmm.
I think we're finally going to have the full set of amiibo by the time Fire Emblem Warriors comes out, and you'll be able to hopefully use each character's amiibo for some really cool statistical advantage.
Yeah, that would be nice. And the amiibo thing is partly why I think that all the Smash Fire Emblem characters are going to be in Fire Emblem Warriors. But don't quote me on that. I'm not sure.
Well, I've got hopes for it, but we'll just have to see what happens. There's also a supposed Smash rumor, by the way. I heard something in an interview with Reggie Fils-Aimé earlier today. I saw something, but I haven't had a chance to look into that to confirm. And we're kind of anticipating a Smash release anyway, so I'm not holding my breath. I'm not too worried about it being anything big or relevant.
Yeah.
All right. We're about to get to the technical finale of this, and then the meat of what I would consider the Fire Emblem Direct, basically the entire second half of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the one neat thing about this whole Fire Emblem Direct is that we got greeted by reveals of not only some new characters, an entirely new game. And if you pay close attention, you'll see some really neat things in here. This is
Mhm.
Fire Emblem Echoes, the much long anticipated Fire Emblem release for mobile platforms. Back before,
Mhm.
when we had just a title name and a logo, we really had almost nothing to work with.
It's
And
Heroes.
now we've
I
got,
think you said Echoes again.
oh, I'm sorry, yes, it's Fire Emblem Heroes. Fire Emblem Heroes
I was
functions,
about to say.
yes, very different. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, one of the neat things about this is that there's going to be a sort of a Final Fantasy Exvius sort of element where you can recruit characters from alternative games. You'll see that as a reoccurring thing covered in the remaining half of this video. We're given three new characters. Right here we see Alphonse.
Alphonse is such a fancy, noble-sounding name.
Well, he's a fancy, noble person, so I'm not too surprised that that's what we got our hands on. Where we also managed to, oh shucks, I cannot recall her name. It seems to have botched past me. Is it Serenus or Serena?
Serenus.
What am I thinking of? Oh man, I had a website up with some pictures and it just died on me.
I did too, but Serenes kept throwing ads at me, so I closed it so there wasn't background noise on my end.
Gotcha. Let me see if I can get through. Yeah, I'll just play the video for a little bit and we can see some of the neat elements.
Apparently you're drunk, according to one of your viewers.
Oh, thank you. I won't look through anybody, or I won't look to see who posted that. It's probably Mr. Hand or it was Raven, no doubt. The two people who know me so well and would love to post that sort of stuff about me. So yeah, we agree with a pretty neat introductory cutscene of our new heroes, along with our unusual man. Oh, there's one thing I want to show first before we cut to that part. Notice there's a handgun.
Yeah, like when I first saw that, I was talking with Refa, and he's just like, "Is that a gun?"
Yeah, we're definitely looking at some new elements. Perhaps handguns will be replacing some elements of the bow system as far as projectile weapons. Later on in this video, they'll cover the different weapon types, and you don't see anything as
Yeah.
far as handguns go. So it's you're just kind of at a loss as to what you think it could possibly cover. Now, one other thing you'll see here's the infamous crossover that we were expecting. We've got Xander and Lucina facing off against Camilla and Crom, that what appears as though our summoner with his gun fired them out using the orbs, which is pretty
Yeah.
entertaining as far as I'm concerned.
It's like, it's just like, oh, this is just gonna confirm that mobile's gonna be all Fates and Awakening. Thankfully, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, we're getting a lot to it, and I'm really well, shucks, I'm really just not really sure where to start. There's so much that's going to be coming out with this game. It's going to be a strong mobile port with a bunch of familiar faces coming back in, and a few new faces, including these two who represent the villainous side of the game. So I suppose there's going to technically be a story involved, although I'm not entirely sure how
Uh,
deep it's going to be.
it's probably not gonna be deep because the Dragon Ball Z like mobile game had a story of sorts, but it was really off the wall, kind of just goofy. It didn't make much sense. It didn't have to either.
Well, the idea of a brand new and original story, as mentioned here, it implies that there's going to be one coming, although I just don't see it being the deepest thing.
No, I
It,
don't either.
yeah, it is a mobile title, bear in mind, so we're limited a little bit into what we can assume.
They could they, they could surprise us. That's always a possibility.
Now, one neat thing I think is worth posting: Yusuke Kozaki He is the character designer for Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Phase. He's returning to do quite a bit of the artwork in this game, and that's something else that we're being greeted with. Virtually every character that's in here, there's going to be dozens upon dozens of characters that you can recruit into your army, characters across
Yeah.
many games, and here is the website just for a quick reference. You've got characters crossing over from just about every primary verse. I haven't seen too much represented from the judge roll verse, but it looks like you've got everybody else. We're getting artists redesigning them specifically for this app. So Nintendo is really pushing Fire Emblem Heroes there to be their
Yeah, look,
new big jump to the mobile world.
it's that Ike design looks nice now. I'm looking at it, and that Erica from I'd rather a front shot. That'd be a better indication of how good it was. But it looks nice. All of them do.
Well, this is their main site. It's fire-emblem-heroes.com if you want to jump in for the American or English version of the site. What we can see here is
It
just
looks
a
nice. All of them do.
little bit of a
Well, this is their
description
main.
as far as the as far as just what the site is, what it has to offer. We get a little introduction of our heroes, Alphonse, and we get 3 stills for each character. Just a casual, an attacking stance, and an injured stance. We got one for each of the characters that are mentioned here, and there's a lot more to go. We've also got, here we go, Sharina. I'm sorry, how did I miss that? Of our Heroic Kingdom, Asker. We're looking at the Prince and Princess here. They are new characters along with Veronica here, who appears to be from the Emblem Empire. Get it? Fire Emblem? The
That name.
Emblem Empire?
That that name. That name just made me burst out laughing because it's so dorky, but it worked.
I think for a mobile platform, going with something a little bit comedic and a little bit silly is just what you need to help tie in a good laugh and
Yeah,
catch your attention. One other character that we've
I
got
agree.
here is the Mysterious Man, who, one, is incredibly ripped, as you can see right here, but two appears to be some sort of magician, and we really know very little about him outside of what this little description gives us, and we see him 2 times in the introductory video just wearing his mask and standing there ominously in the sunlight, so it's not terribly frightening. We also have a bunch of returning characters. Some of the official artwork we've got is Anna, who is actually on your team right from the beginning of the game. Um,
Oh, oh yeah, like Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle. That's the mobile one. They actually gave you a few free characters right off the bat too.
it's pretty exciting, and what I think is Anna here for is just to kind of go over some of the tutorial elements of the game, and you'll see how
Yeah.
Anna's using an axe here, whereas Sharina is using a lance, obviously, and our hero Alphonse is using a sword. The video does cover how a lot of the elements in this game utilize the weapon triangle system, and as we get a little bit into it, we can actually see that when they try to describe how the game's battle system works, it's actually very similar to what we'd have come to expect from Fire Emblem. We've got our Fire Emblem Fates inspired weapon triangle, which is the red versus green versus green versus blue calculation and advantage system. Whoops, I
Hmm.
bumped my hard drive. And the other thing that's introduced is bows and shuriken coming back. So we're really seeing a Fates-inspired um, weapon triangle, and Anna is the axe user in your starting group of 3 to help kind of go over that. So even though nothing was really shown as far as how the tutorial works, I'm certain that that is what we're looking at. Yeah, we've got quite a few characters showing up, and we've seen so many
Yeah.
in the
Yes,
game.
Mr. Mario Sonic. That's Lindy behind
Yeah,
Roy.
yeah, Lynn from the Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem / New Mystery of the Emblem. We've got a whole bunch of familiar faces. One that caught my eye was Fire Emblem Bartray from Fire Emblem Binding's Blade over here with his mustache. I recognize that as a very defining
Yes.
character trait. We've got young Tiki. We've got some villains over here on the left, like Narshan and Zephiel, King Zephiel.
Yes.
We've got some returning characters that you may recognize, like Kata, Marth, of course. We've got Lilina, and something else that caught my eye, I had a little chuckle about, is you'll see here We have Wendy from Fire Emblem,
Yes.
the Binding Blade, and in this game, she's actually referred to as Gwendolyn. So you'll see there's quite a few different names being offered to many of the characters that
Yeah.
are in here. Um, let's go back a little bit, and we
And
can
a
try
ton
to.
of like renames.
We'll do a zoom in of who else we've got. See if anyone got cut off on the sides. Elliewood here on the far right. Lucina
Hmm.
Takumi. There's that Stall in the background, and we definitely know Stall is recruitable.
They
And
show that quite like substantially later.
is this let's see, we've got is this Ray, I believe, from Fire Emblem the Binding Blade. We've got
Yes.
Sophie, who's the game's low level dark mage who joins you. We've got Lilina and Shanna or Thani, depending on which version you've played with, along with just quite a few other returning characters. It's pretty exciting to see so many familiar faces. We saw Fur, we see Florina, Church or Surge, depending on what you refer to her as, and Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Donald's making his way back. Lissa, Virian, Matthew.
So many so many characters like that. When I saw this, I'm like, wow, they're actually remembering everyone.
Yeah, they're bringing so many back in. We got Noe, Sully. We got Grown Up Tiki, and I think it's interesting how we have two different Tikis as playable characters in this game. Because right at the forefront, we saw Young
Yes.
Tiki, and here we see Fire Emblem Awakening Tiki, which is definitely much older. Other than that, we're really touching on the core characters of the games. We don't see any represented from the Judge Roll area that I've seen, and I do think a couple of them do get announced, like Seliph and Finn and a
Yeah.
couple of others, but they're just not really displayed in this. And I'll show you how I figured out that information in a little bit as soon as we finish this introduction and move on. There is a poll where you can vote for characters that are going to be in the game, and where yes, that's right. There's no Tellius either in here, but there definitely is because
Yeah.
Ike's mentioned that in the forefront. Yeah, you can vote for characters to be your favorite quote-unquote heroes of the game, and the characters that accumulate the two most votes, male and female, will actually have some cool little rewards given out for DLC events and such. And I'll go over those in a few minutes. But this is what I was getting to about the weapon
Well,
triangle system. How we've got our different characters here that have the different weapons identified by their little icons. What we've got here is an 8x6 battle grid, which is consistent across every map according to the game, and you just point and click and drag your way through each battle to try to simulate the most Fire Emblem-like experience that you can come up with. I don't know if supports are really involved in this. That's not really something that's covered, but general stats, leveling up to what appears to be kind of a level of level 5 or 5 stars helps you raise your stats, and then you can purchase and invest in new weapons, new skills,
mhm.
and new accessories, which you'll see up here in the upper right corner, which can just adjust your stats and let you know a little bit more about what you got. Now the stats are cut down a lot. You've got attack, defense, speed, and res. No accuracy, so the game may just have a system where you always hit, or perhaps never hit, depending on certain scenarios. Another thing is
Mhm.
perhaps advantages by weapon triangle. While it's not explained to you in this, maybe it's solely a power advantage or a speed advantage, not an accuracy advantage.
Something that these smaller maps remind me of are the FE12 prologue maps because they were like one screen, like big.
Yeah, that's
There
right. A
was
lot of the introductory maps were, especially the first couple, the first 7 of the 8 prologue maps were very tiny.
Yeah, it made Lunatic kind of tricky because you had to. It was basically a puzzle at that point.
And so we're definitely seeing some inclusion of characters from different series. As we got General Cilicia, damaging walls. We've
Hmm.
got different units. We see Saizo. We see Nino. We see Nino contributing and beating up Gwendolyn over here, which is definitely a little different from what
I like
everybody expected, I'm sure.
I like how you just said that. You're like Gwendolyn, like I don't
Well,
know, just the tone.
well, it definitely stands out. It's an unusual element of the game because we've known here.
Yeah,
We,
it's just weird. Like it's such a cool name, but she's it's just not that great of a unit.
so here's that whole red beats green, green beats blue, blue beats red, almost Pokemon style.
Yeah, I got a huge Pokemon vibe from how they were describing it too.
Well, and it's the same way for Fire Emblem Fates when they originally described it. It's
Hmm.
just it's a simple way to explain it. People are already familiar with it, and it's an easy thing for people to interpret. So when they're already used to it from other games, they can handle simple transitions. You gotta
Oh,
be careful, or your units can die. One thing that is mentioned is that when your units die, they do come back at the end of the battle. I did see some discussion about units that died, maybe taking a whole day to return, or you have to spend money to get them back. No, there is
hmm.
a message brought up, and right where it says summon heroes in a different scene, where it says the fallen units will return immediately after the battle.
And Mr. Mario and Sonic Man mentions a good thing. In the triangle, there was no light or dark magic shown. It was just magic by itself.
Yeah, that's kind of getting back into the Fates style
Yeah.
sort of weapon triangle that I was talking about. You saw there was shuriken involved. You saw there were bows or yumi, whatever you'd like to refer to them as, involved. But there was a definite handling of a Fates inspired, which didn't have light or dark magic, even for some classes that you would assume would have. One interesting thing to note is that the triangle system. Let's go back to it. They'll bump up how it's an elemental advantage, though, where things are a bit different back in the Fates days. You would see axe and bows, or lances and knives slash shurikens, and swords slash what was the other? It was just tomes of all kinds, I suppose it was. They kind of merged into their own
Yeah.
category, so it's a little bit different from what it used to be. It was the same general feel, but it's a little bit different where you see a magic. Now that I think about it, maybe it's more like a blazing sword type of, where the elements are just merged into the weapon triangle system rather than its own separate triangle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think they'll just merge all magic into one thing, so people can still have their iconic spells, like lion or something. They'll be just under the spells, but they can still have technically dark magic. That's what I'm thinking, anyways.
Let's see. We'll definitely have to see if some of them get special abilities or special effects too, because that's not something that's really covered in this. You can get items and skills, but you don't necessarily get weapons that seem to indicate skills. Now, one thing this game does offer
Yeah.
is the reward for winning battles, and also a microtransaction award for getting orbs, and you can use orbs to either invest in raw items or equipment, or to purchase new units. Now, this is going to be an
Yeah.
obvious point of contention for some people. The way the system works is when you decide that you want to invest orbs into a unit, you're given a randomized roll of spheres, which indicate what type of unit you'll get. So, for instance, if you invest in a red sphere, you may get a sword user or a fire magic user.
And the interesting thing is that I saw like the thing right before the screen showing all the orbs that said appearance rates. That's very much like, again, Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle. It would give you like, okay, you have this percentage of getting this really good character from this like set of summons. I'm thinking this will fall under the same like category because it looks very much like that and how that works.
That's crazy. Another thing to note up here is your stamina, where you may not have to pay to get your units back. You may only be allowed to perform so much in terms of activity per hour. And this goes back into a couple of other games that we've seen, not necessarily Nintendo broadcasted or otherwise, but just mobile games in general. You can only do so much per day. I'm a little
Mm-hmm.
nervous as to what these swords mean. They may be like attempts, lives or something. So,
Okay.
so we're not entirely sure what exactly that'll mean. But other than your orb counter, your feathers, which may be warping, and your stamina, you're not given a whole lot of information.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot there, and it just reminds me again and again of that Dragon Ball like Dokkan Battle. Like every time I see any of the screens, I'm like, hey, this is like Dragon Ball, the mobile game.
Let's see, the last little bit of information they do explain here as far as the microtransaction goes, that the more times you make investments, the cheaper future investments become. So if you were to dump out, 20 orbs, you're actually getting a little bit more. You're getting kind of a quote unquote free or cheaper investment. I don't know if this is all, if it's sequential purchases or if this piles up. So maybe like you could make one purchase this month and one purchase in 2 months. It's not sure, and that's not something that's really covered in here. Mr. Mario Sonic Man asks a little bit about the fire under the magic book. That is a good question. I'm not really sure what that specifically refers to. There's, at first I thought it might just be referring to the specific element, but,
Huh.
in tomes,
Parallel
hmm,
Parallel Falchion brings up a good point. It could be like tomes, or not tomes. It could be like, yeah, it shows both tomes and fire. So maybe it's, as a couple people in chat are saying, it could be like Manicheets or Lagoos or something.
yeah, there's a whole
I don't
different.
know.
Well, we haven't necessarily seen that much about Lagoos at all, so I'm not really sure what we're going to be crossing into.
I assume they're going to be there, if like most of the characters are going to be there in general.
Well, I think we're just going to have to leave that up to theory until we get a little bit more clarification.
It's We have a lot more than we had before, so all we had before was a map.
This last thing that they explain about making orb investments is that if here's the redeem 4 to get another one when the first one cost 5, you can immediately just continue buying units, and you get them with different stars, which indicate their rank or their power level, essentially their level. And in just a moment, they're going to get Long Q here. I always pronounced it Long Q.
I always pronounce it Long Ku as well. And you know what? It's kind of weird. I always thought his name sounded very Star Wars like. That was just a random tidbit, but yeah, I always
It,
thought it was a Star Wars name.
it's Feroxy Jedi, get it right. But here you'll definitely get to
Whatever.
see some of the neat things. You got 5-star Lyn, 5-star Azura here, and you're seeing speaking, where characters are speaking to you. Supposedly all of the characters are given their own unique voices with their own unique revised artwork. So we're not getting instances like in different versions of support systems where you're just getting grunts and groans over a generic voice going ugh and ah. You're actually
Yeah.
getting dedicated artwork, and this is one last thing to talk about too. They're explaining how there's different levels you can get for each character. You'll see there's statistical advantages and item-based
Hmm.
advantages. Apparently, the stars are tied to a character's potential,
Yeah.
so we're going to see some pretty high investment opportunity here, where you're just going to be spending a lot of money trying to figure out exactly what you want to get. Now, the last thing in this tattoo is you got David Vincent down here, voice actor, and you've got the artist. Because there's so many artists collaborating for this game, you're seeing a lot of different artists officially citing themselves for the work. You don't usually get this in Fire Emblem.
Ooh, Mr. Mario Sonic Man brings up a good point. If this mobile game has English voice acting for every character, doesn't this mean it's a lot more likely that Fire Emblem Warriors will have English voice acting? And I can agree with that, actually.
Yeah, we did get an English voice actor for Marth in Fire Emblem Awakening for the DLC. It's
Wasn't it technically codenamed Steam, or did the Awakening do it first? I forget, actually. It's been so long.
Awakening did have Marth DLC that was free upon release of the game, and there was an English Marth in there.
Okay.
Or perhaps it was Face that had to. Face brought Steve Adkins back to do Ike in the DLC. They brought some other familiar faces back in. There definitely was an English Marth in Fates.
Yeah. It was Yuri Lowenthal, the same guy who actually did this direct, like the speaking of this direct, which I found kind of fitting, honestly.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, the chat's correcting us. Fates had a Marth VA, but Awakening did not. That was my fault there.
Thank you. I I thought it was an Awakening because it was like, wait, he spoke an Awakening when?
Now, going on, you can structure your teams with teams of sized 4, which you'll see there's never enemy battles with more than 4, supposedly. Each unit does have their own level, and supposedly you're able to structure your teams where they have chemistry with one another. What I can gather is that these little hearts indicate a unit's potential chemistry with other units.
It might be. I honestly can't tell you until like we have a little more info, but yeah, I think you're right on that. Supports kind of, except I don't expect like talks.
Yeah, here we go. Defeated heroes will return to your unit after the battle has ended. That's reassuring. So the movie does go in a little bit more into covering how you level up your heroes. You've got a couple of different options. You have a question mark, which I assume relates to dueling against other players. Alternatively, that arena duels might, but it kind of explains that it really may not be. Let's go back a little bit and see. Going for high scores through successive battle. You probably aren't necessarily battling other people. You might be. They might be for competitions or mini challenges. But it's not. It's just not indicated enough
It,
to really get a definite feeling.
the interesting thing with the again Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle is there was like tournaments that were scheduled over every like few months. While you actually did participate against other people's teams, it wasn't while they were on at the same time. If I recall, it was more you just faced other players' teams
Oh,
that they
okay.
had set up.
So maybe sort of like an AI-inspired battle system, kind of like when you're battling other players in the 3DS versions of Fire Emblem. You're going to visit their castles or whichever, and you're just battling an AI-inspired team.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, but again, I'm not sure. I'm just going off of like the one mobile game I've actually put in time and it put time into, and it just happened to be a Dragon Ball one. Go figure. But it has a lot of similarities to what I'm seeing.
Now, we're leveling up our characters here, there's one other thing to check out. We've got our raw stats up here at the top. There's this SP stat, and I'm not sure what SP pertains to, but we do see it levels up by 12 in that moment. I don't know what that could refer to. I'm
Hmm.
having a hard time grabbing it. It may be related to like a special attack meter.
Maybe, or maybe it's part of the whole skill system they brought up later.
Oh, it could be
Oh,
skill.
wait, I saw it for a second on the skills. It was like you need 200 SP to learn Killing Edge.
Oh, here we go. You're right. It is skill points that you dedicate towards learning skills, or you invest those points into new weapons. It looks like Killing Edge is a weapon,
Yeah, it's
or
kind
Steel
of
Sword is a weapon.
weird that they would classify them as a skill.
I guess because you lock them to a character, this way you don't have a reason to interchange them or switch them from one character to another. That's probably what the whole
Yeah.
purpose of it would be. So there we go, increased damage 50%. So yeah, you can definitely really customize your characters a whole lot more than you ever would have thought you could. And then you level them up
Hmm.
by stars, and when they cap up at 5 stars, supposedly they're not really customizable anymore, because that's when they cap up and they're finished being done. There's one thing I want to show you up here. There's that mustache Bartray. Sorry, I just had to show you for a moment. There's two different versions of
Of
Bartray,
course you do.
and in Fire Emblem,
Of course you do.
yes, yes.
A glorious mustache.
So the other neat thing is that when units do their critical attacks, they will shout their critical quotes in battle. So we're seeing units being given new character quotes for battle, which is pretty neat because, like I said, again, everybody's getting their own voice actor to do their own voice work, or
Hmm.
at least a shared voice actor to do their own voice work.
And the chat's talking about how many people will use shurikens because of there's only Fates that has shurikens, and that was also settled by saying, oh, we could just give some of those to thieves, and I agree with that actually.
Yeah, thieves. There may be assassins coming back, like Jafar. Units that might be able to promote two assassins, like well, shucks, Chad if they bring him in, or just yeah, you're right, any thief too. So there's a whole nother line. Plus, there's the butler class that uses shuriken. So there's ninjas, butlers, and we saw Felicia, so she's playable as well. So maids. There's quite a variety of classes that could use shurikens in this case.
And I noticed like it's been said in the chat quite a few times that some of these maps do look inspired by older Fire Emblem maps, but they're so small it's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
Well, we're drawing towards the end of the video here. They're going to go over a little bit as far as the Fire Emblem Heroes website and availability. February 2nd, we see it's available for Android users. Not quite sure how long it's going to be until iOS users do have access to it for their iPhones and iPads. I myself have an iPhone 6. I can try to confirm whatever I can on that, but there's nothing in the App Store thus far, and there's nothing on their site or source code that I've been able to figure out as far as its availability. Now, one thing that does concern me a little bit is that the Twitter, Nintendo of America's Twitter, says that for iOS, we're going to see a release on February 2nd. But the video that came out earlier today does not say that. So this came out a little bit after the video. It's hit or miss. I'm really not sure what to expect at this point. The last time we had some sort of promise about some sort of Nintendo product or game like Super Mario Run coming out, we got it very, very late in the same day. But we did get it, so I can only hope that Fire Emblem Heroes does come out at a realistic time. And then what comes up next is the idea of the voting for characters, which you can do by going to the website, the Fire Emblem heroes.com/vote with events, which is the URL in here, and you're given a list of characters that you can vote for, but there's plenty of others to choose from that you can say, are your favorite or something. The interesting thing about when you vote for your character is that they'll be revealed in Fire Emblem Heroes as exclusive event-based characters in several months, or however many months it takes for them to officially be revealed and developed for. And there's our Seliph cameo, by the way, so because he's votable, we should definitely have some sort of judge role appearance, we just don't know what.
So, yeah, who are you going to vote for, Elieson?
Who am I going to vote for? Quite honestly, Niles shows up here right at the end as the last character to vote for, and I really don't think I can pass that up. But no, honestly, I think I'm going to be voting for Lyn, just because I have some sentimental value in Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, and I would like to see some Lyn DLC or Lyn-based event, and probably also Ike, because the Ike here is the Path of Radiance Ike, and I do enjoy him as a character. I'd like to see something, hopefully dialogue-based, even if it's just tiny, that refers to him. Maybe with Griel or something, or maybe with him and Mist.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I don't know who I'm voting for yet. There's so many people to vote for. I might vote Matthew, though. Same thing with your Lyn vote, sentimentality kind of thing. Yeah, nostalgia.
Well, the biggest thing is we have just a little while to do the vote for. When the video was announced, this URL came up very quickly and it dropped away. But you do you do have the ability to vote starting tomorrow. The vote is technically
and you get one vote per day.
Yes, so you can go back in and you can.
It sounds like.
That's what they did for their popularity contest anyway, so it's safe to assume that they'll be doing it the same way this time.
Okay, so one theory I have with this is that I think Warriors might take a little bit from who they find popular in Heroes votes. I don't know, though. That's a small theory of mine, though.
It'd be pretty neat if they could tie it in. Let's take a quick peek at the site here just to see what we got. In here, we can choose our legend by linking our account, getting platinum points, and we can review our hero from the quote-unquote battle ballot. I'm just going to continue in without signing in. And in here, you can do some pretty neat things. You can hit random selection and just get a randomly generated unit from a randomly generated game. You just keep going next year until you find something you like. Now, if you do find someone that you do want to vote for or you do have interest in, you can click up here in the menu and search by game title. You can scroll through a little bit more easily and find the unit that you're looking for. What I'm excited about is using this to look for what the official English translation names for a lot of units are going to be that we've never seen before. In some games, for instance, we'll see like Celica over here in Alm. We kind of knew that from DLC, but there's some other names that come in a little bit differently from what we're used to. Like, I believe Mycin is spelled differently from what anybody had been accustomed to.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's any others we can pull up here.
I know a lot of like translators are kind of annoyed right now because of all these alterations.
Yeah, here we go. Anand, for instance, that definitely caught a chuckle out of a few Seren's Forest goers. Ardan was commonly spelled, I believe, with an A in his name. This is Alice, but
Hmm.
he's going by Ares, which I think contradicts his name in the Fire Emblem Awakening DLC. A couple other things like Azel, Azel, kind of looks a little feminine here with the LE. And yeah, so it's just interesting to see what some of the translations give you. And I will say this, if you click buttons fast enough, you can actually get some silly names to show up. Like earlier, I got Finn to show up with the name Pent under his screenshot. That was
Oh,
entertaining.
that's somebody showed me that it was what's his name, Bastion with Pant under his name.
Yes,
It was hilarious.
that was me who got it earlier. It's just entertaining to play with it. So yeah, definitely come check out this website. Link your account because heck, a free point here is a free point there, and you can always use that to take advantage of potential free wallpapers or maybe DLC bonuses or something. Speaking of wallpapers, part of this event is actually, if you look at the event details, the winner of this event receives a monthly calendar wallpaper based on the results of people who vote in the Shoots Per Legend event. So for every month from March until December, we're receiving dedicated and free designed wallpaper art for, I assume, your mobile device, gosh, 9 times out of the year. And supposedly January and February
That's
distributed right around voting. So that's pretty neat that we're looking at potentially 12 unique custom pieces of art based on just a popularity contest.
yeah, it's really cool. I like when like companies do these popular fans participate in something. It's always kind of nice.
Yep, we definitely had some good activity from the from some Nintendo UK YouTube releases where some new video series had started. Now those kind of tapered off, but I really think that this is going to go pretty far. I don't see this dropping off pretty soon just because of the ease of availability and involvement with mobile-based activity.
Yeah.
So yes, there's ways that they're supposedly going to be preventing people from using quote-unquote multiple accounts to do things like cheat and multi-vote. So we're probably not going to see too many instances of people really cheating out the system. That's my hope for, anyway.
Hopefully.
And we'll see what your requirements are for running on the operating systems. And what interests me is that when I see PC here, I wonder if there's going to be a web port or if this is specifically just to run the website. Um,
If there is a web port, I might just do that. It's easier for me to do stuff like this on a laptop. My phone is just always going off like with text and stuff, and that kind of bothers me when I'm trying anything mobile. So, you know.
Well, there's a whole lot to look at here, and there's going to be more to come, but we are kind of running out of time. We've gone over just about every element of what the Nintendo Direct video has to offer. We've seen a lot. We've really seen so much. It's been exciting. And Jedi, I don't know about you, but at this point I'm thinking of calling it quits. We can wrap it up. We can analyze a little bit more on our own, and hopefully just get excited for what's coming in May and February with the Fire Emblem Mobile and Fire Emblem Heroes and Fire Emblem Echoes releases.
Yep, it's a very good time to be a Fire Emblem fan right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, this was an absolutely bombastic release. I was not expecting anything as far as how this day was going to be. This has been a heck of a day, and Nintendo is right to give us a whole day dedicated to Fire Emblem. So, without
Yeah.
further ado, I'm going to go ahead and cut things off.
Hope you guys enjoyed, and sorry if I wasn't as active with the chat as I was hoping.
Yep, it's always interesting to get involved with the chat and uh, just see what other people have to say. So thanks again for your input, everybody. And if you have any comments, concerns, come ahead and visit us at Seren's Forest. You can visit our newly updated site at serensforest.net /forums, and you can really discuss just about anything. We've got hundreds of people discussing topics by the minute covering just about everything from all different topics. And we've got, of course, some activity on Reddit and everything too. And heck, if you find out something new that we didn't know, maybe you see an article come out on Twitter, or perhaps you speak Japanese a little bit more fluently than Jedi or I, or you speak Japanese and read Japanese at
I
all, and you can read
was
something
about
and
to
you can
say
give
I
us a
speak
pro tip from
Japanese.
something that's covered in the Nintendo Japan coverage, like a little bit more detail for the special bundle release of Fire Emblem Echoes, which includes the special CD, the the art book, whatever it is. Definitely check it out. Oh, speaking
I
of, there is that one last thing that I wanted to go over with you regarding the
oh
special
one
edition limited
one one
bundle.
thing one thing. Mr. Mario Song Man's like, will you make a forum for us to say things to you?
In case you find anything, I can go ahead and post it. We actually have a website. I'll go ahead and, or Jedi, can you go ahead and get the link to that forum or
Just
to our Severance Forest forum where we had posted the video discussion here? Either this one or the official
yeah, I'll
Nintendo,
try to find it.
or either this one or the official Nintendo Direct forum where a lot of discussions taking place. The one that I posted earlier today. Um, this is, while you get that video and post it in the Twitch chat, there's one last thing I wanted to show you, and this is kind of a little secret. Jedi, I didn't think you'd maybe notice this, and I'm kind of hoping to surprise you with it. Anyone else on the stream who's still here. If you take a look, you'll see coverage of the Valencia Complete Bundle and the limited edition bundle for Fire Emblem Echoes that are available in Japan. We've got the pricing set here. We've got the system they're set for. The bundles come with an art book, a trading card, an audio CD for the Echo soundtrack, pretty standard stuff, a cipher card for Alm, which is exciting, and this HD movie collection. Now, what is this HD movie collection, you ask? Supposedly, it's the collection for videos that are gathered up from various games, such as Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem Echoes, and I believe I saw a user, Kirokan, on Certain Forest, post that the special edition bundle is going to cover something for DLC. I'm sorry, for HD videos being released of the Radiant Dawn game. It's going to be a Blu-ray, and you can actually get a little bit more coverage of that on our Seren's Forest site, where we see Vincent ASM, our site admin, posting right here that the HD movie collection contains videos from Radiant Dawn. Now, if that's not excited for you, I don't know what is, but they're pushing higher quality videos of Radiant Dawn, which makes me think that we might be getting a port to the Nintendo Switch of Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn coming soon.
Here,
And your audio appears to have cut out. I'm not able to hear you. No, you're supposed to be excited for this.
yeah, audio's been kind of weird right now.
But yeah, bottom line is we've got a potential port, if not at least the upcoming release of a bundle, which will include HD quality movies of Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn's cutscenes, and that's really exciting. That's Japan only, again, so that's why I kind of saved it to the end, because one, it's a secret, and two, we're not even getting it, or potentially not getting it. But yeah, it's exciting. It gives us something else to contemplate about as far as what's potentially being released and what we can get our hands on.
I'm sure Shadow of Chaos will get a copy of it, if anyone does.
Well, if he doesn't, then I'm sure Kiro can, and Vincent ASM will be able to give us some more information about it. And between that, we'll hopefully know about maybe new Fire Emblem games coming to either Switch, 3DS, or whatever new systems Nintendo decides to throw at us. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut things off officially here. Jedi, it's been great working with you today, and you've been a great discussion partner. Hopefully we can do something like this a bit more often and go over some new and upcoming news as far as Fire Emblem goes, maybe make it a little bit more of a recurring topic.
Yeah, I'd actually be really glad to do that. This has been fun.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to cut off the stream, so you guys all have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, as the video says, and
Yep.
best of luck with your Fire Emblem endeavors in the future.